Previously on Happy Endings.
I knew you'd make it here. Kendricks! You don't know how many times I wished you'd come back. I missed you.
It was so beautiful, Jake!
And now we jump forward about 22 years or so.
Okie dokie. For those who are like, wait, didn't he just do Lost Galaxy? Why is he jumping all the way ahead to Dino Fury? I don't understand. Watch my last video. It explains everything. In fact, here, go watch that and then come back here. I'll wait. Are we good? Alright, hopefully that explains everything, and it'll probably also explain why whenever Lewis mentions a reference to a past season and I pick up on that, like, that explains why. Alright? Great, we're all on the same page now. Take it away, me from 5 months ago.
Oh.
You Rangers are about to be D-U-N-E!
We'll be Dune? Do you mean done?
No, he said what he meant. For he is the Kwisatz Haderach! Welcome, my friends, to Power Rangers Dino Fury. Beast Morphers was pretty damn good. It mined a lot of Power Rangers lore, both older and newer, to show that continuity is not necessarily a hindrance to telling a good story, even if parts of it echo what has happened before. After Beast Morphers, Simon Bennett, who had been a frequent director on both Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers, became the official showrunner. And wow, you never really realize how nice it is to have someone actually talk about behind the scenes of the show and the difficulties of making it until you actually have someone doing it. Yeah. Bennett has been quite open about the production of the show, the difficulties he faced working under other seasons, and done a healthy amount of promotion, even pointing out that with Dino Fury, they're more acknowledging the adult fan base. Now that part I'll get into more in another video, but for now, some behind the scenes on past seasons is interesting. It's amazing hearing about some of the mandates they had not just for Ninja Steel, but for Beast Morphers, since while Beast Morphers actually felt like the reins were loose, apparently Saban still had some creative input, and thus mandates and restrictions were put on the series. For Ninja Steel, while the show had a ninja theme, the show was not allowed to do any ninja stuff other than being stealthy. I mean, sure, you kind of expect that a children's show wouldn't have assassinations or anything, but it's still odd that other stuff was off the table. They were required to have 2 standalone Victor and Monty scenes in each episode due to how the show was filmed, more on that later. Episodes had to have a moral of the week, and ADR during fights had to be filled with puns. There was apparently a Saban executive who loved the fart jokes, insisted on them. His exact words were, they insisted on auditioning catalogs of fart sounds to select individual sound effects that were to be used in the show. I used this image a lot in my Twitter watch thread of Dino Fury, but I think it really applies here. Serialization threads were not allowed or heavily discouraged save for first and last episodes. Evil Rangers were not permitted save for mind control, which is especially weird when they've had Evil Rangers before, plus Beast Morphers had what could be considered Evil Rangers even if their outfits were a bit more outlandish. Terminator, Blaze, and Roxy were destroyed all the time in Season 2 because episodes had to be self-contained, which is just head-scratching because then why isn't Scrozzle destroyed in every episode? And the bad guys had to be blown up. Continuity between seasons was also loosely banned, fearing that the young kids in the audience wouldn't retain information. It does make a little sense, except anecdotally, as a kid, it was the serialized stuff that kept me watching. Obviously not the same for everyone, but I was in Power Rangers' target demographic in 1993, and multi-parters and ongoing story threads kept making me want to see more. Apparently, RPM was seen as a failure because it was too adult, and certainly not because it was poorly advertised and placed in a terrible time slot. What goes through the heads of some executives, I wonder? You'd think with access to so much information about kids, what they watch and how they play and what sort of shows they gravitate towards, that they'd understand this stuff better and not have that kind of mindset. But with Dino Fury, Saban was officially out of any consulting on the show. Still, mandates existed and there was some meddling, the big one being that Dino Fury was not intended to be 44 episodes like the last few seasons had been, but only 22. Apparently it was fairly simple to stretch out the arcs they had planned for the story, spread them out across 2 seasons worth of episodes, and I applaud that, especially with something in particular that they added in we'll get to. For now, though, let's see what they did with Power Rangers without Saban's leash. We begin the season with Destination Dinohenge, and if in response to my complaining last time about the theme song being put halfway through the episode, we have the theme song right at the start. And it's not great. At least with the one in Beast Morphers, the occasional techno-y music and digitized speech worked with a technologically focused show, but this one's about dinosaurs. A lot of it is just repeating Go-Go Power Rangers over and over like the Beast Morphers theme, save for one spot where the singer speaks. It's probably the most unique part of the song, and I don't even think it's that good. Honestly, if the themes didn't say their season names in them, I'd probably have a hard time distinguishing between Beast Morphers and Dino Fury's themes. We open in the city of Pine Ridge and meet this woman, Amelia, and we can see by the stickers on her moped that she's a big fan of the History Channel. She works at BuzzBlast, a news and pop culture review site, and has been having a hard time convincing her boss, Jane, to do a story on a supposedly haunted area of the nearby forest called Dinohenge. Apparently, in between video reviews of neon lipstick that probably gives you cancer, she has been trying to write up stories about the supernatural for some time now. Jane's reluctant, but since Amelia actually does get her work out on time, she's willing to give this one a shot.
But I want a factual story about a local landmark. Nothing paranormal.
Watch as it turns out she was a student of Mr. Burley from Megaforce, and she uses him as her primary source. She heads out with her... well, I was going to say primitive Ghostbuster equipment, but honestly, given how sleek that thing looks, it almost seems like it probably is more advanced than that. Still, the device she has can supposedly detect and capture ghosts.
Wow. A ghost. Finally.
And that's when she's attacked by xenomorphs. She launches an electrified net at the supposed ghost.
Also, I just want to get this out of the way right now. I really like the actress that plays Amelia, Hunter Dino. I think she's... I like her on this show, and I'm not gonna lie, she's... yeah. Just gonna get that out of the way right now. Nothing but respect for her. Let's move forward.
But it's just a bicyclist, wearing a raincoat on this perfectly clear day. She asks the guy, Ollie, what he's doing out there.
Online reviews said it was a great place to get zapped.
As someone who's been doing reviews for 15 years, it's always incredible to see how online reviews have changed over all this time. These days, you could have a 3-hour video on getting zapped by nets and no one would be shocked. Except for the people being zapped by nets. Ollie is trying to get to a meeting with his mother in Dinohenge and has lost his way. But fortunately, Amelia has... a map. A physical map. A folded-up physical map. Is it weird that it isn't her cryptozoology hobby that ruined my suspension of belief, but her using a physical map does? They reach the henge, a series of dinosaur statues coming out of the ground. Ollie's mother is there, an archaeologist studying the statues. Theoretically, they're millions of years old, but no one is sure who put them there and why. She launches a drone to try to scan for structures under the statues, but the scan just makes the eyes of the statues glow and the area shakes. When things settle, they do find a chamber underground. Before they can investigate further, Park Warden Garcia shows up and points out that none of them have a permit to be there and orders them to leave and come back with him to file a report on this. As they pack up the equipment, Ollie learns that Amelia was chasing ghosts and balks at the idea of them existing, the two clearly frustrated by the other's beliefs. However, it seems the henge is popular today as a purple figure teleports in. He blasts a hole in the ground. Ollie's mother and the warden have walked off at this point, though should still be close enough to hear the blast. The two follow him down and discover a high-tech base. The purple figure finds some kind of lizard woman and blasts her.
Firstly, I'm a dinosaur, not a lizard.
I mean, she's right, but it feels like semantics aren't important right now. The purple figure introduces himself as Void Knight and says she can't fight his power. But then she unveils a Red Ranger, Void Knight specifically calling it a Power Ranger. However, the Red Ranger doesn't emerge from the chamber it was in, and Void Knight presses the attack. Ollie grabs a nearby sword and defends her, Amelia following through with the electrified net.
I also, to get this out of the way, I fucking love Void Knight. I love the look of Void Knight. I love just the character of Void Knight. I love the progression of the character. I'm sure Lewis will get into that as well. But yeah, no, Void Knight's definitely one of my favorite villains from the show so far, at least. Plus the look of Void Knight is just chef's kiss.
The dinosaur woman tries to give them a key to activate the henchman to fight him. Oh, hey, neat wordplay. But yeah, Void Knight intercepts the key and activates them himself, revealing our foot soldiers.
Any ideas?
I've done 3 years of karate.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, but have you ever locked arms and legs with 2 other people and spun them around in a circle? Because that's real martial arts right there. With a bit of more realism, it's not like they're doing a bunch of fancy karate moves or anything with this. Learning karate in a safe gym environment isn't really the same thing as fighting for your life against robots armed with pikes. However, the swords the two have start glowing. The swords form morphers for them, and the dinosaur lady gives them keys to activate them. The two morph and fight off the henchmen, Ollie mentioning that if you've watched the news before, they get Zords too. Which, just to spoil this now, we're back in the Prime universe, though that does make the disbelief in the supernatural kinda head-tilting. Void Knight finally finds the energy source he's been looking for, the Sporix. He takes the chest of them, but the dinosaur woman is finally able to wake up the Red Ranger, Zato. Zato recognizes the armor Void Knight is wearing, knowing it's stolen. The Sporix end up released, and they fly out of the chamber, Void Knight fleeing as well. He collapses the tunnel behind him to keep them from pursuing. The Sporix fly into the air, but one drops down and forms into a monster, whom he recruits to retrieve the rest. Back in the command henge, our heroes demorph and Zato is revealed to be a telepathic alien. And instead of being entirely human-looking like Andros, he's got antennae like Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. He also introduces the dinosaur woman as Solon. She reveals to him that he's been in stasis for 65 million years.
I've still got that library book.
Zato explains via telepathic flashback that his planet, Rafkon, was invaded by the Sporix. Leading the Knights of Rafkon against the Sporix, which, as we saw, hatched into monsters, he defended his world as best as he could against them, but ultimately failed. The planet was devastated, and the Sporix left for their next conquest, Earth. He and the Knights followed them, fighting alongside dinosaurs to defend the planet, until the Sporix learned to grow giant-sized. Before they could be wiped out, though, they were saved by ancient beings called the Morphin Masters. Okay, this requires some deep lore diving, like the kind of reference that only makes sense if you're an obsessed weirdo like me, or, thanks to the internet, have access to fan wikis. Way back in the original first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Episode 7, Big Sisters, which consequently was the episode that introduced the Rad Bug, Zordon mentioned a group of sorcerers known as the Morphin Masters that imbued a bunch of power into power eggs to be protected from the forces of evil. The chests containing the eggs could only be unlocked by the touch of an innocent child because wizards are goofy like that. They were just a bit of lore fill, just an excuse to use some Sentai footage, nothing else about them ever mentioned again, until the Boom Studios comics decided to pick up on that and greatly expand the lore on them. And I guess they decided to feed it back into the TV series. It's just such a weird thing to bring back, a reference out of nowhere to a teensy tiny bit of otherwise forgotten lore. It'd be like if they referenced Lokar, the giant head wizard thing that Rita called for help twice and was, like the Morphin Masters, so inconsequential I never mentioned them in the original Season 1 video. The Masters had come to help, imbuing the 6 remaining Knights with the power of the dinosaurs, freezing the animals in statues while granting the Knights their power. And for whatever reason, this season is not called Dino Knights or Dino Swords or Dino Masters or 1,000 other better names than Dino Fury. Apparently, Dino Knights was the working title for the series as it was being developed, but Hasbro had the final say and made it Dino Fury. And yet that's what the Morphin Masters called them, additionally giving them Zords to fight the giant Sporix. While the Rangers were successful,
Dino Knights actually does sound like a better title, to be honest.
in stopping them, the other 5 Knights were killed in the battle. Zato and Solon were able to recapture the Sporix, but they're basically indestructible. The best they could hope for was to contain and hide them. The Sporix that are loose will hibernate until they're ready to hatch, so our heroes need to train and ready themselves for their eventual attacks. This is an okay season opener, starting as slowly with only a few characters, but the writing and acting feel a bit weaker than others. Obviously, mixed acting is just something you expect when the season is just starting out, but a lot of line delivery just feels flat for some reason. The dialogue just doesn't have anything too funny or memorable is all, and when Zato reads their minds for the first time, it feels very much like an informed attributes kind of moment when he lists off their personalities. Sure, we'd already seen their personalities demonstrated before this, but I don't know. Something just seemed off about this compared to other season openers. Might also just be that something about Zato's antennae seem weird and off-putting, like an uncanny valley thing for these little flesh-colored tubes sitting on his head. I don't know why they bother me when other shows and movies have done the same effect, but there's something about them that's just yeesh here.
Sure, it's phallic. Why wouldn't it be?
Anyway, we continue in
for crying out
Sporix
loud.
Unleashed. Amusingly, it begins with the three practicing their morphing poses and calling out the phrase. Just to get it out of the way, I'm not too fond of the morphers. They're basically just a rehash of the Dino Thunder morphers, but with a larger back and the addition of a key.
Yeah,
I do
are
like
kinda
how they
like the
spin the
Dino
key
Thunder
after inserting it. It's just the design of the morpher itself feels a bit underwhelming. Something else I have a minor issue with is the outfit. Not a huge problem. I like the overall design and the night helmet visors,
Yeah.
though admittedly it seems like those would impede vision a bit. But what bugs me is the gray half of the outfits that makes the costume asymmetrical and consequently busier. Sure, gray is already part of the outfit by way of the helmets and gloves, but I think they would have looked better as just one color all around. Anyway, speaking of that key, Ollie and Amelia point out that there should be powers for 6 Rangers and wonder if they can recruit people. But Zato says that the other 3 keys were lost along with the original Rangers. They can also explicitly teleport with, honestly, the best teleportation effects we've had in the franchise, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Megaforce's wispy teleport effect was neat, but then they forgot they could do it afterwards. This one actually looks like they're being beamed away. Solon's gotten the base defense systems up again, so only they can enter, and she's found a scanning device that Void Knight had been using. We saw him drop it in the first episode. Ollie thinks he can combine it with his mom's drone to scan for all the Sporix, but Zato and Amelia say their priority should be to warn the town. They bring Zato to the city, and of course he's amazed by how much has changed in 65 million years.
Where are the dinosaurs? I'd love to see some.
Well, in another dimension, you can find them in a zoo, but I wouldn't recommend going there unless you want the space-time continuum to be repeatedly smashed in the face with a rock. Zato can also retract his antennae to appear more human. They head to the Park Service HQ.
But remember, no one can know that you're Rangers.
Why? Sure, we know all the logical reasons for a secret identity, but why does Zato care? Humans didn't even exist 65 million years ago, and I doubt they were keeping it secret from the T-Rexes lest they invade their privacy on dinosaur social media. Anyway, without that evidence of them morphing or...
Also, I forgot to mention this before I started. Again, this is me mentioning how, I recognize this from a past season because I caught up on everything before this, blah, blah, blah. You already know. My last video covered all of that. We're all good. Back to the thing.
or something, naturally Warden Garcia thinks they're full of it. Still, Ollie's mom believes him, and he shows her the scanner and tells her his idea. Then we see them try to convince Jane to get the word out about the Sporix. But first we get our hinting of this taking place in the Prime universe, as she unveils that she's getting a robot assistant to take over for her in the future. And it's manufactured by Hartford Robotics. I do wonder how Mac feels about mass-produced robot servants for people given his origins, though maybe they aren't programmed for sentience like he was. But yeah, after wowing everyone with J-Borg, as she's called, they're interrupted by video footage of a Sporix beast forming, and our heroes go to deal with it.
Again, also, before we go forward, I just gotta say, I hated Jane and J-Borg in this season and in the second half of Dino Fury. I hated Jenna and J-Borg so much. They are so annoying. Like they're basically the bulk and skull of this season. They're the comic relief. And yeah, no, they were not funny at all. They were so fucking annoying in my opinion. I'm not looking forward to revisiting them again in this. Oh god.
Void Knight and his minion return to Dinohenge to try to retrieve the scanner, but find it protected by a force field. They observe Ollie's mom working on mounting the scanner to the drone. Our heroes intercept the spore.
It also doesn't help that, as mentioned, J-Borg came from Hartford Robotics, which is a reference to Operation Overdrive. Why they would want us to be reminded of Operation Overdrive, I have no fucking idea, but, you know, it's for the fans, I guess. Maybe there are fans of Operation Overdrive out there. If you're one, shout out to you, I guess.
Sporks Beast, and we get our first proper morphing sequence, and I actually quite like it. It's got a lot of cool visual elements. The Rangers kind of floating in the air as the suit forms around them, what appear to be constellations around them. But of course, what would dinosaur Rangers have to do with cosmic stuff, am I right? Honestly, the only part that doesn't quite work is their exclamations of what dinosaur ranger they are. The acting just feels more subdued than it should be. They try to add an echo effect, but it's barely audible when it doesn't seem like they're shouting it. Additional booster keys can be used by the Rangers to provide new armor and enhancements, as demonstrated with a stink bomb attack with flatulence noises added in. Yeah, I know this is Sentai's footage fault, but still. Thanks, Dino Fury. Beast Morphers had made me forget that little addition of the last few years. Anyway, the monster that was serving as Void Knight's minion, Shockhorn, arrives and summons henchmen to fight the Rangers. I'm not sure how they do so, though. Yeah, Void Knight took control of the ones in the command center, but that was like a dozen at most, and several got destroyed. How is he making more to summon up for fights? Anyway, the Sporks Beast is recruited to joining Void Knight, since apparently these things love taking orders. Her words, not mine. After they leave, our heroes learn that the video of the Sporks is getting around, and thus people are being informed of it. Ollie tells the others what he did with the scanner, but Zato points out Void Knight might return and look for it. And indeed, they find her being attacked by the monsters. After the Rangers distract them, she sends the drone crashing down into Shockhorn, and I guess the drone was loaded with explosives for some reason because it becomes a frickin' bomb. Shockhorn grows giant sized, and Zato heads out in the T-Rex champion Zord to take him on. The thing is a battle mode, and credit to the original Zord footage from Ryu Soldier. Sorry about the pronunciation. Not sure if it's just filmed with a high-speed camera or if the suit was designed for more agile movement, but it looks like it can actually move pretty quickly despite the standard bulky suit action. Anyway, they blow it up, but destroying a Sporks Beast doesn't actually kill it. It just reverts to the fungal form and with increased power. Void Knight manages to grab it before the Rangers can. The Rangers put out an official PSA warning people about the Sporks, even setting up a hotline and direct messaging service to contact them if someone finds one of them. The hotline, by the way, was real. The production team set it up and they would answer with pre-recorded messages from the Rangers. Obviously, it's defunct now. Meanwhile, Void Knight and the other Sporks Beast, Mucus, set up shop at this vault-looking place. Pretty sure this is where Bunny Smiles Incorporated keeps their old animatronics. Actually, Void Knight refers to it as Area 62, an old government installation now long abandoned. He uses the Sporks he retrieved in a machine to power it up, saying he needs a lot more before it's ready. At the beginning of episode 3, Lost Signal, we get some pathos for Zato as he recalls his mother giving him a gem when he became a knight, and in turn talking to Amelia about how much he misses Rafcon.
Few people survived, but that was millions of years ago.
The Tricerablade and Ankylo Hammerzord are unleashed to help fight the monster of the week, and we can see that, like, all the Zords have a robotic ranger also as part of them? Weird. Anyway, they all form up into the Dino Fury Megazord and destroy the monster. As part of the episode, they also received a strange signal from space that could have come from Rafcon, but the language is indecipherable. Still, they can also transmit a message, so Zato sends out a signal in the hope that someone on Rafcon is there to hear it. This brings us to episode 4, New Recruits. Void Knight assembles a new robot general, Boom Tower, while the Rangers try to get Zato a job as a reporter at BuzzBum or wherever for reasons that completely elude me. I mean, yeah, sure, he should probably have a life outside of being a ranger, but he's not interested in journalism or pop culture or makeup or the various other things that BuzzBomber does videos for, so why this? Hell, he lives at the command henge. He doesn't have rent or anything to worry about, and he also doesn't have any documentation he'd probably need for a job like this. In any case, his rival for the job is Javi Garcia, a musician who also wants the job so he can raise money for a keytar. The Rangers look at him as if he's insane. Our heroes suck because keytars are awesome. The two are given competing assignments to see who does a better job at it, meaning she gets free work out of one of them if both articles are good. This is why unions are so important, kids. Anyway, Javi is assigned to do a story on a mystical rock at the museum that Void Knight wants to steal for Boom Tower, while Zato has to interview Izzy Garcia, the top teen athlete at Pine Ridge High. She agrees to the interview when he offers a tip about her javelin throwing, which is as simple as aim slightly higher to get more distance, and that seems like the kind of thing she'd know already being the top athlete, but whatever, she tries it. We also learn that Izzy is Warden Garcia's stepdaughter. At the museum, the Sporks attack and Javi calls into the Ranger hotline to report it. Warden Garcia himself actually shows up to try to stop them. It goes about as well as you'd expect. Boom Tower has the mystical orb.
With the orb, I'll be invincible.
Invincible? That's not good.
Javi manages to get away with the orb. Later, we learn that today is Massive Coincidence Day, as the warden admits that Javi is his son, and they'll try to track him down as soon as possible. I mean, it was pretty obvious when all three have the same last name, but still. After her father walks away, Izzy tells the Rangers that her brother goes to a secret spot to practice his music, since their father doesn't approve. The Sporks intercept Javi, but fortunately our heroes arrive to save him. To keep the monsters from getting the orb, Javi smashes it on some rocks, revealing the green and black Dino keys. And thus the siblings have become the Black and Green Rangers.
Hold that thought. Skirts aren't really my thing.
Cute, but does she have to do that every time she morphs now? Anyway, fight scene.
Javi, catch!
The henchmen are summoned, and I'm a bit late to say it, but I like their design. Reminiscent of medieval pikemen. The outfit is a little busy with the checkerboard patterns on their side, belt, and shield, along with the more elaborate designs on their helmets and chest piece, but otherwise, I like them. Anyway, they force Boomtower to retreat and destroy another Sporix monster in yet another pretty damn good Megazord fight. Formal introductions are made, and Javi ends up getting the job at Buzzbale because of his bravery and getting the orb away.
Buzz Blast.
In the next episode, Winning Attitude, they locate the green Tiger Claw Zord, naturally in the spirit of the original Mighty Morphin days, we're including a saber-toothed tiger along with dinosaurs for some reason. Javi's Stego Spike Zord is found 2 episodes later in Stego Search. Meanwhile, Void Knight has a secret room at Area 62 that he refuses to let his minions enter, even booby-trapping it with an electric field to shock anyone who tries to open it. More importantly, though, we have the next episode. Unexpected Guest. After a Sporix beast manages to destabilize the Megazord, our heroes try to figure out a way to repair it, when, indeed, someone unexpected shows up.
Oh, that's different.
Holy crap, Mick! This is only the 8th episode, yet we're getting a legacy character to guest star. And hey, considering Ninja Steel was kind of snubbed last season, it's nice to... Wait, why was he a bird? I mean...
I really, really don't want to have to keep repeating this, but you know, I know. Let's keep going, okay?
I mean, yeah, he could shapeshift to Ninja Steel, but he did so infrequently that I forgot it was a thing. Why didn't he just show up in a car or something? Why the bird poking at Zato? In any case, he's been chasing the Nexus Prism, also mentioning it has a strong direct connection to the morphing grid, across the galaxy and its return to Earth, landing somewhere in the area. Zato unexpectedly is a dick to him, saying they don't know him and have bigger problems to deal with, and thus doesn't care about the Nexus. Mick says he'll stay out of their hair, but Mucus, observing this, reports this news to Void Knight. Mick ends up at Buzzball to search Earth's databases for signs of the Prism, but that just makes me wonder why he hasn't contacted the Ninja Steel Rangers or... like any of the other Rangers on Earth. Speaking of, a Sporix tries to capture him to find the Prism, but our heroes bring him back to the command henge. He provides them with a database on all known Ranger teams, as well as giving some more exposition about the Nexus, how it has a mind of its own, and that no one really knows where it originally came from. Using their sensors, they quickly locate it near the waterfront. Since the Nexus is alive, Zato tries to use his telepathy to communicate with it. He sees a vision of the Morphin Masters creating various mystical objects to hand to Power Ranger teams, including the Dino Gems from Dino Thunder, the Energems, and the Nexus Prism itself. They sent it to Earth to fight evil, where it eventually ended up with the Ninja Steel Rangers. The Morphing Masters have been observing Ranger teams, including both the Beast Morphers and Dino Fury teams most recently. The Nexus has been sent out again to find something, but Zato isn't able to identify what, only that it's still searching. It heads into the water as the villains show up to try to claim it. In the fight that follows, Boomtower is destroyed, but the Nexus flies off for parts unknown. The Rangers still not sure why it was here. We finally get to see what's inside of the secret chamber that Void Knight has. A woman suspended in fluid with wires hooked up to her.
But I promise it won't be long. Whatever the cost, we'll be together again soon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Zato apologizes to Mick for being a douche, but it's all water under the bridge, especially as Mick has to head out into space in pursuit of the Nexus. Obviously, it's not really a team-up episode, but as I said, it was nice to have some continuation of Ninja Steel, considering Beast Morphers' team-up was instead to Dino Charge. Ninja Steel wasn't a great season, but it's still part of the legacy, and it deserved some follow-up. Nice to have some resolution on the Nexus and its origins, given it was so vague in the original season. In the 10th episode, Phoning Home, Void Knight and Mucus construct a new general and empower it with a Sporix, this new enemy calling itself Slither. Slither has the ability to cast
Slither,
illusions and deceptions. Plus, he comes with an over-the-top magician voice, and I kind of love that. In the episode McScary Manor, Amelia's grandfather, referred to as Pop-Pop and had appeared already once before, reveals that he worked at Area 62 and that whatever they did there was top secret. Inside of the manor, Amelia locates the Blazing Dino Key, providing both another power-up armor to use on the ground while summoning up the Dimetro Blazing Zord. It can merge with the T-Rex.
Because, of course, that sort of thing would be hidden in a haunted house. Sure, why not?
Zord to form another Megazord. At the end of the Matchmaker, we have two big revelations. The first is Void Knight taking off his helmet. Not anybody we've met before, but it does seem to identify him as human, or at least a humanoid alien. The bigger, more important reveal, though, is that Izzy is a lesbian, dating a minor character named Fern who had appeared a couple of times before this. Aside from Trini in the 2017 reboot movie, this is the first real acknowledgement of LGBT plus people in Power Rangers in 28 years, and the first time on TV. In a show that's always tried to promote progressive, or at least positive messages for kids, that's a bit of a lacking gap when other shows have been more willing to take that plunge years before this one. And making that first time one of the main characters, not just a one-off character of the week teaching a moral message about how prejudice is bad, is a good way to make up for lost time.
100%.
Hell, making their partner someone we've seen before in previous episodes and will be seen again, and having her friends and family being happy and treating it as something normal is so important for kids, especially when we still have massive legal pushbacks against LGBT plus people in the real world. Now, full disclosure, I'm a white cisgender straight dude, so I'm not necessarily the most qualified to say it and take my opinions with a grain of salt, but I think this is great, much needed representation in this franchise, and I have to give major props to the production for finally making it happen. And again, during a time when hard-fought rights for LGBT plus people in America have been put in danger.
Well, better late than never.
But hey, at least there are no other massive, shocking reveals for this season. Apropos of nothing, let's move on to episode 4.
Also, I like that, and I liked how it was set up too. Fern was introduced a few episodes prior to that as a rival athlete to Izzy, which that's one of those like romance tropes, you know, rivals turned lovers. We've seen that a bunch of times in other things before, but it's nice to see that done with a twist here. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I was genuinely surprised that they were able to do that reveal with Izzy and Fern while the show was still on Nickelodeon at the time, given their current standing with their former star JoJo Siwa after she came out. Yes, there have been recent examples of them being more inclusive on some of their own shows, but my point still stands. My guess is that Nick just wanted to get these episodes out there just to get them out of the way and wrap up their contract with the show and Hasbro and what have you. But yeah, no, I do like that they did that. I really like Izzy and Fern, both as characters and as a couple. I think it was nice to see that happen. And yes, that was the aspect that made me want to watch this season. Hearing that this season was the first one to introduce a gay character, not just in the cast, but as a Power Ranger. The first official gay Power Ranger in the show's history. Like, that's a big deal. And yeah, and the fact that they handled it as well as they did, I think is really, really nice to see. Obviously, it doesn't make up for what happened to poor David Yost and all the homophobia that he had to deal with when he was still on the show. But hey, you know, it's a start. Also, I'm recording this during Pride Month, so happy Pride. Anyway, I think I should probably just kind of cut the video off now. There's not much space left on this memory card, so yeah, this is going to be part 1 of my reaction to History of Power Rangers Dino Fury. Be on the lookout for part 2 very soon. And yeah, until next time, I'm Marc Aquino. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Marc Aquino YouTube channel.